Hi, this is Carrie. Today in group talk, the discussion topic was favorite movies. And so, one phrase that we learned while talking about TOEIC strategies was a leg up. So, a leg up means an advantage. For example, studying strategies for the TOEIC will give you a leg up on the competition. That means, it'll just help you out. And so we talked about Makoto's favorite movie is Shawshank Redemption. And so she explained that the main character had an affair or romantic involvement with another, or not the main character, the main character's wife had an affair, which is romantic involvement with another person while in a committed relationship. So she explained that the main character's wife had an affair, and that was the reason why, the people assumed that the main character murdered his wife, which is why he was sent to prison. So an example sentence for affair is Mrs. Robinson is having an affair with a younger man. So we kept talking about Shawshank Redemption, which is a really good movie, and we mentioned maximum security prison, which is a prison for those sentenced to life in the United States, life in prison in the United States, and what's it called? Prison in Japan that's like a maximum security prison. An example would be Abashiri Prison in Hokkaido. So that is an example of a Japanese maximum security prison. What I found out after the discussion was that the prison in Shawshank Redemption is actually a fictional prison. A lot of the movie was filmed in the Ohio State Reformatory. And the prison from the movie was actually probably not a maximum security prison, which I found out. A maximum security prison means that someone is in solitary confinement pretty much, except for 1 hour of every day. So the prison that was in the movie was probably actually a close or medium security prison, judging by the amount of freedom accorded to prisoners, or allowed to prisoners. But in the movie, the main character was accused of murder and sentenced to 2 back-to-back life sentences in prison, which means that he had 2 victims and then he was sentenced to 1 life sentence for each victim. And so I mentioned it in the notes, so you can look at the notes Suga-san will post the notes. And so corruption is another theme in Shawshank Redemption. So in Shawshank Redemption, the movie, the prison was very corrupt. And corruption is dishonest conduct by those in power. So, for example, there is a lot of corruption in government. There's a lot of corruption in the prison in the movie. So Makoto also mentioned that Forrest Gump was compared to Shawshank Redemption around the time the Academy Awards took place. So we mentioned that the epic poem by Homer, who wrote the epic poem, The Odyssey, which was written by Homer, Forrest Gump had a lot to do with, Forrest Gump was loosely based around that poem. And the poem is an epic, or it's a poem derived from ancient tradition about the adventures of legendary characters. And so a question I had was whether or not Shawshank Redemption was based on another story or something like that, maybe. It's actually a really good movie, so if you get the chance, you should watch it. Then Kazuko talked about her favorite movie, which is Lucas, and we mentioned coming of age. A coming of age story is a story about a person's transition from childhood to adulthood. So Lucas is a coming of age story. It's about his transition from childhood to adulthood. We mentioned stranded too. So I don't remember how this word came up, but basically stranded means stuck. So you can be stranded somewhere because Well, for example, I've been stranded in Shinjuku because I missed last train. Or Gilligan was stranded on a desert island. So that's stranded. And then rescued means saved from disaster. So, for example, they were rescued from the island. They were never rescued from the island and starved to death. Or they were rescued from the island and didn't starve to death. Shipwrecked. For example, the passengers were shipwrecked off the coast of Sardinia. And to parse means to parse a sentence means to pick out the subject, object, and verb in order to understand the meaning of the sentence. So, for example, I used to have to parse sentences in Latin in high school when I studied Latin. Consecutively is in unbroken sequence. So there were 5 consecutive months of serious decline. Another example, he served 4 consecutive terms in office. Another example, you seem too busy to be able to find time to watch consecutive episodes of television shows. Because Chica is really busy, so she probably couldn't watch like a show with episodes that depend on one another. You have to watch the first and then the second and the third to understand the plot of the story. Then the last thing I'll talk about is elaborate and elaborate. So there are 2 words, they're spelled the same, and they're related, but the difference in pronunciation means like the difference in their meaning. So elaborate is a verb. It means to go into detail. So for example, please elaborate on the idea you just mentioned. And elaborate is an adjective, and it means detailed. So he gave an elaborate explanation. So that's it for the group talk, and if you have any questions, please let me know. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.